Welcome to the podcast where mental health is at the core of what we focus on. We strive to develop people like you to maximize who you are and what you've been called to do by sharing tools and resources for better brain health. And now here's your host, Juan Garcia.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in once again to your podcast of mental health and peak performance, Mind Yours. And today's Monday, which means Mindfulness Mondays. That's right. Throughout the summer, we are focusing on mindfulness in specific areas. And today, I want to focus our mindfulness on stress. Yes, I know everybody's stressed. Everybody says they're stressed. Everybody is trying to figure out how to de-stress or how to, attack it in a healthy way. And my hope is that in this episode, I can help with some management of the stress that you may be experiencing. And obviously, stress management is super important because there is a chemical that our brains secrete during stress, which is cortisol. And cortisol in the body for too long and a lot of it at the same time is not healthy. Not only is it not healthy for our brain, it's not healthy for our bodies. And usually cortisol likes to hang out in the belly area. And this is why some of us struggle, including myself, with the belly area. And there's a lot of research that you can find for yourself regarding the relationship between your mind and your gut, or your brain-gut relationship. And you'll be surprised of the science and the research that's behind all of that, which is very, very scary. So please be mindful of your stress, and let's try to dig into how we can best manage the stress that we're dealing with, because we're all under a lot of stress in today's world. Not just the pandemic, but just everyday life has its own stress. There's a lot of changes that we have to go through. And so now, on top of that, we have the pandemic. On top of that, we have an election year. On top of that, we have, the uprise of so many protests and rioters and whatever you want to call them. It's a lot. And so let's talk about what is stress. Now, it's important for us to note that stress begins in the brain. We identify something as attacking us, whether it's mental, whether it's physical. Something is a threat to us, and we identify it. And our body, as we talked about in a few episodes ago, the amygdala begins to react and say, okay, what do I do with this threat? Am I going to fight it or flee from it? Or am I just going to be paralyzed because I have no idea what to do? So that's the amygdala. That's what it does. But then cortisol starts to secrete into our body, pumping all of this energy and adrenaline into our body. And that's where we have to realize, is this a real threat? Is this a light threat? Is this something that we have to respond to physically? Is this something that after we process it in our minds, that we have to do something about it? And this is important because a lot of what we deem as stress is just within ourselves. And so let's identify what is stress. Stress first comes into the brain, in our thoughts, and then our body physically feels the stress. And that's where we have to be very, very mindful. How is it being processed in our brains, in our mind, and then to our bodies? Because that's where the unhealth becomes very, very real. There's also two different types of stress. There's external stress and there's internal stress. External stressors are things like major life changes, work, financial issues, our health, things that are externally being dealt with. But then there's internal stress. And internal stress are things that we deal with or struggle with, like the inability to accept change. Some of us are perfectionists. Some of us have negative self-talk, and we talked about that in the last episode on Mindfulness Monday. Some of us also are very pessimistic. We not only see the glass half empty, but the glass is about to break. So these are internal stressors that we deal with that also produce a lot of the weight and the burden that we feel that is classified as stress. And so when we identify what type of stress it is, that'll help us manage the stress a little bit better. Because as I said earlier, some of the stress that we do deal with can be managed, and some of it could even be dealt with in a way where it's not deemed actual stress. And I'll clarify that as we move along in this episode. So let's talk about some of the stress management tools that we can apply if we are dealing with stress. And they're easy to remember because they all start with the letter A. Yeah, I know. This is common for me. If you listen to my podcast, if you listen to me speak in different places, you'll hear me either use an acronym, or I like to use constant letters or consistent letters that are easier for us to remember. Also, I like to use mnemonics. Working in the medical field, a lot of the things that we have to deal with, it's best to remember using mnemonics, because you can just, go to that. Okay, that letter represents that letter, and it's just easier. So I just want to make it the easiest way possible for us to remember some of these tools that I think will help us manage stress in a healthy way. And so they all start with the letter A, as I said. But before we know how to manage our stress, let's identify and make sure, how do I know that I actually need stress management? How do I know that it's not just me feeling overwhelmed and it's just something that I can sleep on or just go for a jog or a run and work out? How do I know? So if you have one of these things consistently in your life right now, then I suggest and recommend that you need stress management. Okay, so if you're generally feeling irritable, if you are lately been short-tempered, if there's been changes in your appetite where you're not eating the same things that you would normally eat, if the patterns of your sleep have been affected or have changed drastically, if for whatever reason you are constantly worried now, there's this weariness that is wearing you out, those are signs that you may need some stress management. Okay, if you're experiencing any of these things, those are signs that stress is actually managing you. So you need stress management. You need tools and ways to manage stress better so that stress does not continue to manage you. So having said that, let's go to some of these tools that I believe will help in managing stress. So the first A in managing stress is avoidance. Are there any meetings or things that you have to do or think that you have to do that you can actually avoid? That's one of the things that you have to ask yourself in managing stress. Is this something that I have to do, or is this something that I feel that I've been put into that I don't really need to do? That's number one. Number two is alter. Can you alter the situation that you're dealing with that's giving you stress? For example, at work, is there a better way for you to handle that situation? Is there a family experience that you're dealing with that maybe there's just a better way to deal with it? Can you alter it? Can you change it? The third way of handling stress or managing is adapt. Can you change or reframe the way you're looking at the situation? Can you adapt to the situation better? Are you overreacting to the situation? This is another way of managing stress, that maybe the angle, the perspective that you're coming with or are you having towards the situation, maybe it's your adaptability or lack thereof that may be adding stress to you. So you have to ask yourself these questions. And finally, acceptance. Is accepting the situation that you're dealing with better or easier than actually fighting it? Sometimes we're so perfection focused, or we want to be perfect, that we have this high standard, and sometimes it's not even realistic or impossible to meet. And so acceptance is asking yourself, can I just accept my situation for what it is, and not try to find perfection in it, that it has to be this way, it has to look this way? These are questions that we all have to ask ourselves in terms of how we're managing stress, or how stress is managing us. So the 4 are avoidance, alter, adapt, acceptance. If you can ask yourself these questions and find ways of really being honest with yourself, these are really good ways for you to manage stress, so that stress does not continue to manage you. Because let's face it, we don't need extra baggage, we don't need extra stress to be put on ourselves. And sometimes we put it on ourselves so that we can try to figure out things in life. We don't need that. Life brings its own stress every single day. So the less we can allow these stressors to control us, the healthier we will be, not only physically, but mentally, and also our brain will be healthier, because it does not have to continue to work to secrete all of these different hormones, and the glands are constantly active and sending all these signals and information to our bodies, where we're not really resting, we're not sleeping, we're not eating the right things, etc. Okay, and if we are healthier, then those that we love will be healthier, because we will be able to love them more. We're not going to be tired all the time and irritable and angry and stressed, as we all say, because that word is thrown around so much that sometimes we kind of lose the value of what it is. Now, there is stress that's actually good for us, that keeps us going, that gives us an expectation and a standard for us to live by. And you and I have to make sure that we know what that looks like. But there's stress that we're dealing with that is not good for us. And that's where I want to make sure that we're mindful of that, so that we can live our best life today. I will leave you with this. I've shared this before in speaking opportunities, but I feel like this can help somebody. As I travel, you take your luggage, and some airlines, well, actually all airlines, they weigh your bag. And if it weighs more than 50 pounds, they charge you more money for it. Okay? And so you make sure that that bag is less than 50 pounds, so it doesn't cost you more than what you want to pay. And it's significantly more. And the first time, I realized that, wow, this is going to cost me $150, $200 more than what I need. Let me make sure that my bag is within the weight, or within what I should be carrying. And it dawned on me. It's almost like I got a revelation. Anytime that you and I are going to a certain destination and we take extra baggage with us, it's going to cost us. So, having said that, you and I are destined to go into a higher level. We're being pulled to a higher level of learning, a higher level of blessing, a higher level of understanding of ourselves and each other. And so there's always going to be a challenge on that journey. And one of the challenges that we don't want to accept is for us to take our own extra baggage with us to the journey, things that we don't need, that is causing us stress. And that's another way to manage stress. Say, this is something that I do not need where I'm going. This is something that I can leave right here in the past. I don't need to take it with me, because it's just going to be a burden for me. So let me leave this here, because I have learned that any time that I'm headed somewhere and I take extra baggage with me, it's going to cost me, and I don't want to have to pay. And I don't want people that I love and that love me to have to pay for the extra baggage that I take along with me, okay? So I pray that helps you. If you want more information about how we can manage stress better, you can reach me at our website at juangarciaenterprises.com, and I will be more than happy to help you succeed in life, because you have been created with a purpose and you have the challenge to fulfill that purpose in this life. So be mindful of your stress and don't let your stress manage you.
Thank you for tuning into our podcast. For more information, visit our website at juangarciaenterprises.com. Our host, Juan Garcia, is available for speaking, coaching, and one-on-one counseling. You can email us at info@juangarciaenterprises.com. Until next time, remember, we only have one mind, so mind yours.